The clock on the wall read 2:57 a.m. I remember staring at it longer than I should have, like somehow those blinking red numbers were going to change the reality I was sitting in. The house was too quiet. Not peaceful quiet. No, this was the kind of silence that presses against your ears until your thoughts get louder than they should be. She wasn't home. Again. I sat on the edge of the couch, elbows on my knees, fingers locked together so tightly my knuckles had gone pale. My phone rested on the coffee table in front of me, screen dark, untouched. No new messages, no missed calls, nothing. 3 hours earlier, she had texted, "Going out with friends, don't wait up." That used to mean something different. Back when friends had names I knew. Back when she would send pictures, laughing faces, drinks clinking, the kind of small reassurances that made distance feel harmless. But tonight, there was nothing. No photos. No follow-up texts. Just silence. And something else. A feeling I couldn't shake. At 3:02 a.m., headlights cut through the darkness outside, sweeping across the living room walls like a slow-moving spotlight. My chest tightened instantly. I stood up before I even realized I had moved. The car engine died. A door opened. Closed. Her footsteps. Slow. Uncertain. I didn't turn on the lights. I stayed exactly where I was, half hidden in the shadow of the hallway, watching the front door like it held all the answers I wasn't ready to hear. The lock clicked. The door creaked open. And there she was. Emily. Her hair was slightly messy, like she'd run her fingers through it too many times. Her makeup was smudged just enough to notice. Her heels clicked softly against the floor as she stepped inside, closing the door behind her with exaggerated care, like she was trying not to wake someone. Like she thought I'd be asleep. She froze when she saw me. For a split second, neither of us spoke. The air between us shifted instantly, heavy, charged, dangerous. "You're up," she said finally, her voice too casual, too controlled. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her. Really looked. And that's when it hit me. Not a thought. Not a suspicion. A certainty. It wasn't the late hour. It wasn't the silence. It wasn't even the way she avoided my eyes. It was the smell. Subtle, but undeniable. A scent that didn't belong to me. Didn't belong in this house. Didn't belong on her. My jaw tightened. "Where were you?" I asked, my voice calm, too calm. She slipped off her heels, setting them neatly by the door like everything was normal. "I told you, out with friends." "Which ones?" She hesitated. Just for a second. But it was enough. "You don't know them," she said, brushing past me toward the kitchen. "New people from work." I turned slowly, watching her every move. Every step. Every breath. She grabbed a glass from the cabinet, filling it with water. Her hands were steady. Too steady. Like she had practiced this moment in her head. "You smell different," I said. That stopped her. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. Just enough. She turned slightly, not fully facing me. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, taking a step closer, "you don't smell like you." She forced a small laugh. "Maybe it's perfume. I tried something new." I shook my head slowly. "No," I said, "it's not perfume." Silence. Thick. Unforgiving. She set the glass down without drinking it. "You're being weird," she muttered. "Weird," I repeated, almost amused. I stepped closer. Close enough now to see the details she hoped I wouldn't notice. The faint crease in her lipstick. The slight redness on her neck. The way she kept swallowing, like her throat was dry. "Emily," I said quietly, "look at me." She didn't. Look at me. This time she did. And in that moment, everything broke. Because I saw it. Not guilt. Not fear. Something worse. Acceptance. Like she already knew what I knew. Like the truth had already happened, and there was no taking it back. "Whose was it?" I asked. Her brows furrowed. "What?" "The smell," I said. "Whose is it?" That's insane, she snapped, but her voice cracked halfway through. I let out a slow breath. Then I said the words that had been building inside me for weeks, maybe months. You were with him. It wasn't a question. It never was. She didn't deny it. Not immediately. And that silence, that half-second of hesitation, that was louder than anything she could have said. She started, then stopped. I nodded. Yeah, I said quietly, that's what I thought. Listen. No, I cut her off, my voice suddenly sharper. You listen. She flinched. I had never raised my voice like that before. Not with her. Not ever. I've been sitting here, I continued, my words slow, controlled, for hours, trying to convince myself I was overthinking, that I was being paranoid, that there was some explanation that didn't end like this. She opened her mouth again, but I didn't let her speak. But you walked in here, I said, taking another step closer, smelling like another man. The words hung in the air like a gunshot. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. It's not what you think. Don't, I said. Just one word. But it shut everything down. Because we both knew. It was exactly what I thought. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing once across the room before stopping in front of her again. How long? I asked. She shook her head. It didn't mean anything. How long, Emily? Tears slipped down her cheeks now. A few weeks, she whispered. That hit harder than I expected. Not a mistake. Not one night. Weeks. Weeks of lies. Weeks of looking me in the eyes like everything was normal. Weeks of coming home to me. After being with him. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was. It was the kind of laugh that comes when something inside you snaps. A few weeks, I repeated. She reached for me. Please, just let me explain. I stepped back immediately. Like her touch burned. No, I said, my voice cold now. You've done enough explaining. Please. I pointed toward the hallway. Go pack your things. She froze. What? You heard me. Her face went pale. You're not serious. I held her gaze. Completely still. Completely certain. I am. Tears streamed down her face now, her composure completely gone. It was a mistake, she said desperately. I didn't mean for it to happen. But it did, I said. And you kept doing it. She shook her head, panic setting in. I can fix this, we can fix this. No, I said firmly, we can't. You're just angry. I'm done. That landed. Hard. Because she knew me. She knew I didn't say things like that unless I meant them. You're throwing everything away, she whispered. I looked around the room. At the photos. The memories. The life we built. Then back at her. You already did that, I said quietly. Silence filled the space between us again. This time heavier. Final. I checked the clock. 3:11 a.m. Then I looked at her one last time. You have 15 minutes, I said. Her eyes widened in disbelief. 15 minutes, she repeated. That's more than you gave this relationship. She broke down completely then, sobbing openly. But I didn't move. Didn't comfort her. Didn't soften. Because something inside me had already shut off. Something that wasn't coming back. 15 minutes, I repeated. And then I turned away. Walking toward the bedroom. Not to help her. Not to argue. Just to make sure she understood. This wasn't a threat. This wasn't a bluff. This was the end. The zipper sounded louder than it should have. A harsh, dragging noise that cut through the silence like a blade. I stood in the hallway, just outside the bedroom, listening. Every movement she made felt amplified, drawers opening, clothes being yanked out, hangers clattering, fabric hitting the floor. It wasn't just packing. It was unraveling. 15 minutes. I didn't check the time again. I didn't need to. Every second stretched long enough to feel like punishment. For her. For me. For everything we had built and everything she had destroyed. I leaned my shoulder against the wall, staring at the floor, trying to keep my breathing steady. But the images wouldn't stop. Her laugh, her voice, her face when she said, "I love you." All of it twisted now. Corrupted. Because every memory came with a second version now, one where she was lying. One where she was already his. I clenched my jaw. Hard. Inside the room, she let out a quiet sob. Then another. Then the sound of something falling. I closed my eyes briefly. Not out of sympathy. Out of control. Because part of me, some stupid, stubborn part, still wanted to walk in there, take her hands, and ask her why. Not what happened. Not how. Why? Why wasn't I enough? Why throw everything away for something temporary? Why risk a life for a moment? But I already knew the truth. It wasn't about him. It wasn't even about me. It was about her choices. And choices have consequences. At 3:18 a.m., she stepped out of the bedroom. The suitcase rolled behind her, wheels scraping softly against the wooden floor. She looked smaller. Not physically. Emotionally. Like everything that once made her confident had collapsed under the weight of what she'd done. Her eyes were red, swollen. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the suitcase handle. "I packed what I could," she said quietly. I didn't respond. I just nodded once. She stood there for a moment, like she was waiting. For something. A word. A sign. A reason to believe this wasn't real. "You're really doing this," she said. It wasn't a question. I finally looked at her again. Yes. The simplicity of that answer seemed to hit harder than anything else. She took a shaky step toward me. "After everything, you're not even going to fight for us." That almost made me laugh again. But I didn't. Instead, I stepped forward too, closing the distance just enough to make sure she heard every word clearly. "I did fight for us," I said. Her brows pulled together, confused. "When?" she asked. "Every time I ignored the feeling that something was off," I replied. "Every time I trusted you when my gut told me not to. Every time I chose to believe you instead of questioning you." Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. "That was me fighting," I continued. "You just didn't notice because you were too busy lying." That one landed. She looked down, her shoulders dropping. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. I exhaled slowly. "But you did." Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. She wiped her cheeks, trying to compose herself. "It just happened," she said weakly. I shook my head immediately. "No," I said. "That's the lie people tell when they don't want to take responsibility." Her eyes snapped back up to mine. "It wasn't planned," she insisted. "Maybe not at first," I said, "but the second time, the third time, the weeks after that." She didn't answer. Because she couldn't. "You had chances to stop," I continued. "You had chances to tell me. You had chances to walk away from him." I took a step closer. "But you didn't." Tears welled up again in her eyes. "I was confused," she said. "Confused," I repeated. "Yes," she said quickly. "Things between us felt distant. You were busy, I was stressed, and he." I held up my hand. "Don't," I said sharply. She froze. "I don't want to hear about what he gave you," I continued, my voice tightening. "Because whatever it was, you could have talked to me about it." She looked like she wanted to argue. But deep down, she knew. That part was true. "I didn't think it would go this far," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "Funny," I said, "because it always does." She took another step toward me, closer than before. "Please," she said, her voice breaking, "don't let this be the end." I stared at her. Really stared. Searching for something. Anything. Remorse. Truth. A version of her I still recognized. But all I saw was someone I didn't know anymore. "You already ended it," I said quietly. "No." "Yes," I cut in. "You just waited for me to find out." That shut her up instantly. Because it was true. If I hadn't noticed. If I hadn't stayed up. If I hadn't smelled it. She would have kept going. Like nothing was wrong. Like I didn't exist. The thought made my stomach turn. I chose you, I said, my voice lower now. Every day, every situation, every opportunity. I swallowed hard. But you didn't choose me. Her face crumpled again. I made a mistake. You made a decision. That hit harder. I could see it in the way she flinched. Because mistake sounds accidental. Decision sounds intentional. And intention changes everything. The room fell quiet again. The kind of quiet that doesn't invite conversation. The kind that signals an ending. She looked around the house slowly, taking it in. The couch. The photos. The life. I don't have anywhere to go, she said softly. That was the first thing she said that almost broke me. Almost. But not enough. You should have thought about that, I replied. Her lips trembled. I thought I had you. I held her gaze. You did, I said. Until you didn't. That was it. That was the final crack. She nodded slowly, like she finally understood. Not just what was happening. But why? She adjusted her grip on the suitcase. Her hands still shaking. Can I take the car? She asked quietly. I shook my head. No. Her eyes widened slightly. How am I supposed to? I don't know, I said, call him. The words came out colder than I expected. But I didn't take them back. She looked like I had slapped her. I don't want him, she said quickly. I raised an eyebrow. Could have fooled me. That's not fair. Neither is what you did. She opened her mouth again. Then closed it. Because there was nothing left to say. Nothing that could fix this. Nothing that could undo what was already done. I walked past her toward the front door. Opened it. Cold night air rushed in instantly, filling the space between us. It felt fitting. Like the house itself was exhaling her out. I stepped aside. She didn't move at first. Just stood there. Frozen. Then slowly. She started walking. Each step heavier than the last. The suitcase wheels rolled across the floor, then onto the porch. She stopped at the doorway. Turned back one last time. Her eyes met mine. Full of regret. Full of pain. Full of everything that came too late. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't hear her. But because it didn't matter anymore. She waited. A second. Two. Then she nodded to herself. Like she finally accepted it. And stepped out into the night. I closed the door behind her. Not gently. Not violently. Just firmly. Final. The click of the lock echoed, louder than anything else that night. And just like that, she was gone. But the silence she left behind, that stayed. I stood there for a long time, hand still resting on the door. Listening. Half expecting a knock. A plea. A reason to reopen it. But nothing came. Only the distant sound of her footsteps fading away. Then nothing. Just me. Alone. In a house that suddenly felt too big. And too empty. I turned slowly, looking around at everything we once shared. And for the first time, it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a place where something ended. And something else. Something colder. Had just begun. The silence didn't leave. It settled in. Like it had been waiting for this moment all along. I stood in the middle of the living room long after the door had closed, long after her footsteps had faded into nothing. The house felt different now, not just empty. Hollow. Like something had been ripped out of it, and whatever was left behind didn't know how to function without it. I finally moved. Slow steps toward the couch. I sat down in the exact same spot I had been hours earlier, elbows on my knees, staring at the same blank space in front of me. But everything had changed. Before, I was waiting. Now, there was nothing left to wait for. My phone buzzed. I didn't reach for it immediately. Part of me already knew. And I wasn't wrong. Emily. Her name lit up the screen like it always had. Except this time, it didn't feel warm. It felt invasive. I picked it up anyway. Emily, please, just talk to me. Another message came in before I could even think. Emily, I'm outside, please. My jaw tightened. Outside? Of course she was. I exhaled slowly, leaning back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. This was the part people don't talk about. The aftermath. The part where the person who broke everything suddenly realizes what they lost and tries to come back like it's still theirs. My phone buzzed again. Emily, I don't want to go to him. I don't want him, I want us. I let out a dry laugh. Now she didn't want him. Now. I stood up, walked toward the front door. Each step felt heavier than it should have. Not because I was unsure. Because I knew exactly what I was going to do. And some part of me, the part that still remembered her smile, her laugh, her voice, that part was about to die for good. I unlocked the door. Opened it. She was sitting on the porch. Suitcase beside her. Arms wrapped around herself. Shivering. Not just from the cold. From everything. Her head snapped up the moment she saw me. Hope. Immediate. Desperate. I knew you'd come back, she said, standing up quickly. I stayed where I was. Didn't step out. Didn't invite her in. I didn't come back, I said. Her smile faltered. What? I came to finish this. That hope in her eyes. It cracked. I told you I was sorry, she said, her voice trembling. I told you it meant nothing. And I told you, I replied calmly, that it did. She shook her head, stepping closer. You're not thinking straight, she said. You're hurt, you're angry, this isn't you. I tilted my head slightly. No, I said, this is exactly me. She stopped. Confused. You just never gave me a reason to be this version before. That hit her. Hard. You don't mean that, she whispered. I do. Silence stretched between us. The cold air biting at the edges of the moment. I chose you, she said suddenly, her voice rising with emotion. I'm here, aren't I? I came back. I nodded slowly. After him. Her face twisted. That's not fair. No, I cut in. What's not fair is that you expect me to feel special, because you came back after betraying me. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Because there was no version of this where she was right. I'm not your second option, I continued. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not the safe place you run to after you've had your fun somewhere else. Tears spilled down her face again. I made a mistake, she said. You made a choice, I corrected. Again. Because it mattered. Because words shape truth. And I wasn't going to let her rewrite what happened. She took another step closer. Close enough now that I could see every detail of her face. The regret. The fear. The realization. I love you, she whispered. That one almost got me. Almost. But then my mind did something cruel. It replayed every moment. Every late night. Every unanswered call. Every lie. Every second she gave to someone else that was supposed to be mine. And just like that, the feeling died. You might, I said quietly. But not enough. Her breath caught. What does that mean? It means, I said, my voice steady, you loved me when it was easy. I stepped forward slightly now, closing the distance. But the second things got complicated, the second something new came along, you chose that instead. Her lips trembled. I was confused. No, I said firmly, you were selfish. That word hit different. Because it wasn't emotional. It was factual. And facts don't bend. I gave you everything, I continued. Loyalty, trust, time, a future. My chest tightened slightly. But you traded all of that for temporary attention. She broke. Completely. Sobs shook her body now, uncontrolled, desperate. I'll do anything, she cried, anything to fix this. I believed her. That was the sad part. I believed that right now, in this moment, she would. But I also knew something else. It wouldn't last. Because people don't change when they get caught. They change when they choose to. And she hadn't chosen me when it mattered. So why would she choose me later? You had your chance, I said. Her eyes searched mine frantically. For what? For us. Silence. Final. I stepped back. Reached for the door. No, she said quickly, grabbing my arm. The contact sent a sharp jolt through me. Not warmth. Not comfort. Something else. Something distant. I gently removed her hand. Not aggressively. Not angrily. Just without hesitation. Don't, I said. Her hand fell to her side slowly. Defeated. Please, she whispered. I looked at her one last time. Not with anger. Not with love. Just clarity. This is the consequence, I said. And then, I stepped inside. And closed the door. This time, she didn't knock. She didn't beg. She didn't say anything else. Because she finally understood. It was over. For real. I stood there again. Hand on the door. But this time, I didn't wait. I walked away. Straight to the bedroom. Opened the closet. Her side already looked emptier. But not empty enough. I grabbed what was left. Clothes. Shoes. Little things she hadn't taken in those rushed 15 minutes. I put them all into a box. No hesitation. No second thoughts. Just action. One by one. I erased her presence. The bathroom. Her toothbrush gone. Her makeup gone. The pictures. That was harder. I picked one up. Us. Smiling. Happy. Real. Or at least it felt real. For a second, my grip tightened. Memories flooded in. The good ones. The ones that made this hurt so much. Then I turned the frame over. And set it face down in the box. Because those moments. They weren't lies. But they didn't exist anymore either. By the time the sun started to rise, the house looked different. Cleaner. Colder. Mine. I carried the box to the front door. Opened it. And placed it outside. Right where she had been sitting hours earlier. For a moment, I just stood there. Looking at it. At everything that used to be part of my life. Then I stepped back inside. Closed the door. Locked it. And this time, I didn't look back. Because some endings aren't meant to be softened. They're meant to be final. And as I walked deeper into the house, the first light of morning breaking through the windows, I realized something. She didn't ruin me. She revealed me. The version of me that knows my worth. The version of me that doesn't beg. Doesn't chase. Doesn't stay where loyalty isn't returned. And that version, he doesn't open doors for people who chose to walk out. He closes them and keeps walking forward. Alone, but stronger. And this time, for good.